Get in a long tube with a bunch of demons.
Voices blending, melodies ascending, harmony in the air. Our songs are never ending. In the barbershop we create magic. Brad and John show, yeah. It's pure classic. No instruments needed, just our vocal range. Notes flying high, it's our musical exchange. Tracy's station may try, but they can't compete. Our barbershop style, it can't be beat. Oh, the harmony of voices, so sweet. In the barbershop of life, our tunes will repeat. No need for instruments, no need for a band. Just the Brad and John show, the finest in the land.
John Combest, it's sort of a sad day today on a couple different fronts. You know what one of them is?
Because it's the last day of January, and next month you have to buy each of your lady friends a Valentine's gift.
Well, it's actually the last show of January. Tomorrow is the last day, but the other...
Oh, thank you, Brad. I didn't know that January had 31 days.
Yes,
go ahead.
But tomorrow is the last day of January. But here's one of the sad things. Hear that right there?
Yeah, that's I bet it's your last Little Debbie cake.
It's my last... I have to open up my last box of fall party cakes from Little Debbie's, so...
Oh, no, they're limited edition. One of the great moments of the old Brad and Shelley show, the BS show,
right,
was you telling a tale one time of how you noticed that a little rat or a mouse had gotten into your Little Debbie cakes at home.
And you remember, you ever see the movie Caddyshack?
Yeah, you went, it's like you were gopher hunting.
Right, and I got the dynamite and the whole bit, and I blew my place up just to get that stupid little mouse that got in my Little Debbie's. God, I was so mad at that.
And you told the insurance company, you read from the Brandon Bosley playbook.
Right.
And you said, hey, it was just a natural occurrence when you blew your house up.
No, I said that Brandon Bosley's car hit the front of the radio station. That's what I said. And he tried to claim that my building jumped out in front of him. And I said, no, that wasn't the case.
And man, I thought we could make it through the whole week without you being investigated for insurance claims, Brad. But we did it on Friday.
Can I do one other thing to get this out of the way so you won't make fun of me?
Yeah, please do.
Okay,
Are you going to ring a Salvation Army bell? John, I know you don't want to go in the entrance where an old man is shaking a bell, but come on, there's only 3 more days.
Okay, hold on a minute. Oh, did you hear that?
Oh, yeah. Brad, it's never too early for a Bud Ice. Now, did Malik at Magic Market, did he start ordering those for you specifically? Because originally he just only had Mad Dog there.
Yeah, Malik is my bud. He takes care of me. Okay, John, you know what it is? You know what we do this time of the day on this show?
What do we do, Brad?
We do the top 3, but there's something special we do on Friday. You know what that is?
Are they Rap Boys?
No, it's the Polka Boys.
Time for the John Combest Top 3.
Yes, not the John Combest Top 3, the John Combest Top 3. Every single day of his life, John puts together this incredible website he calls johncombest.com, C-O-M-B-E-S-T, johncombest.com, and it has dozens of stories on there. And some people who have ADD, like myself, after you read like the first 20 or 30 stories and you're going, oh, there's 40 more, you may go, wow, I wish there was somebody who could come and just maybe once a day tell me what the top 3 stories I said watch are. So what we do is we got this guy, we dug him out of the grave in Norway, and what's your name again, sir? Oh, hold on a minute. He's still dead. Okay, let me slap him in the face.
I'm Casey Kasem.
And what do we do? How do we start this thing we call the John Combest Top 3?
In third place,
Brad, Dr. Phil just texted, and he wanted to correct you. He said you should generally come at least once a day. Brad, let me ask you a personal question. When was the last year that you had a landline?
John, you know what? By the way, you're bothering me because I normally by this point in time I'm eating my Little Debbie, but
I know you're shoveling it down your gullet. Go ahead, Brad.
I think I still have one.
And because you have multiple properties, I think you're comfortable with us saying that. And I would imagine that you would have had one for some sort of, I don't know, security or some sort of telecommunications requirement. But in general, you don't have a landline in your house, correct?
No, we've got one at one of the transmitter sites still. So yes.
Okay, yeah. So that would make sense. I think a lot of businesses are probably in the same spot. I ask you that question because of a headline from the Washington Missourian, the great Jeff Folsom. Franklin County puts online use tax on the April ballot. Now, this is something that surprised me when I'm about to ask you, Brad, but I have an idea that you would probably know this. Why would Franklin County need an online tax that has to do with landlines? Do you know why?
Because the 911 thing.
Yes, Brad. So I didn't know this. I knew you would know that, Brad. I knew you would come through with that piece of knowledge. Here's what Jeff writes. Franklin County officials will ask voters April 7th if they want to have a use tax for online purchases to generate revenue for 911 service. By the way, it makes me laugh because how many people are going to say, I definitely want a use tax on my online purchases. The commission order authorizing the vote, approved Tuesday, states that the use tax will be 0.25% of purchases. And Jeff goes on to say, for years, Franklin County's been seeking additional funding sources to supplement a landline tax that has seen dwindling revenue as residents move to cellular and internet phones. Commissioners subsidized 911 funding with some of the $20 million the county received from the American Rescue Plan Act, but that's no longer available. And here's a couple good quotes here. Commissioner Ken Cox says, unfortunately, the funding for 911 services was provided by a 15% sales tax on landlines. Who in here has a landline? Anybody? And I guess 2 people raised their hand. And Ken Cox said 2. So that explains the problem with 911 right now. We got 2 people here with landlines. And the county, look at how this math adds up, Brad. The county is estimated to receive less than $500,000 in landline tax revenue this year, leading to an annual deficit of more than $3 million for 911. That's according to Franklin County 911 Communications Director Jeff Titter, Titter. You ever think the Titter family was coming in to Ellis Island and they stood there for a moment and thought, should we keep Titter, or, maybe this is the time to change Titter? I don't know. I mean, look at my last name, Brad. I don't have a lot of room to talk. In the last 5 years, we've lost $250,000 in revenue, Titter said. By 2028, landlines will be non-existent. So I guess we can blame the Brads of the world who moved away from landlines like it's not the 1980s anymore. And now Franklin County's got to say, hey, got to get this money from somewhere.
Is that my cue to talk?
Yeah. Sorry, Brad. I should have said, Brad, what do you think about this? And then you could put the little Debbie down.
Well, John, I didn't have Little Debbie, but I happen to know some inside information that the people who do not want to pay this on their online purchases, all they have to do is take their 2 cans and a string and go to Dave Schatz's office, and Dave, oh, okay, fine, you're exempt. That's the way it's going to work.
Yeah, and all they have to do is then they have to fax a copy along with their birth certificate, right?
Right. Yes.
I don't know if people in Franklin County, if commissioners, I don't mean to be flip here, Brad, but there's really no good time to ask people to approve a new tax. But wouldn't you say when people generally have a lot of economic anxiety, it's especially not time to ask people to approve a new tax?
Is that an intro to number 2?
It's not, Brad, but you know what? Number 2 is on a completely different topic because we're going from super local to statewide. And I took the initiative, Brad. Although there's a great data center story up on johncombest.com today, I feel like we kind of covered data centers enough. So let's look at a statewide education issue.
Well, can I mention one more thing? In St. Charles County, they don't have a problem with this because of the fact that the 911 tax, the 911 is essentially paid for by all the cellular companies and the radio stations, like my own station, that, I've been wined and dined by these St. Charles County EMC people out there. They take me out to lunch. Hey, will you please go on our tower? Well, we'll pay to install. We'll pay to do all the
time.
All the structural studies.
Every day. you have your own booth.
Yes.
In most Mid-Rivers Mall establishments.
Right. They're just like, and to the point where, well, you know what? If you don't put another antenna on our tower, we might have to put a tax on something, like put a tax on your mailbox in St. Charles County to pay for 911. So anyway, number 2.
Up a notch to number 2.
A headline from the Columbia Missourian that tackles one of your favorite issues, school accountability. Now, Brad, I'm just going to let you know that I'm going to take the side of the teachers in this argument up against the Brad Hildebrands of the world. Proposed A through F school report card faces bipartisan criticism in House hearing. Pardon me while I clear my throat. Mike Kehoe's proposed A through F school report cards were heard Wednesday by the House Elementary and Secondary Education Committee. The gentleman at the center of this is named Dane Diehl from Butler, Missouri. If the name sounds familiar, no, he's not related to former Speaker of the House, John Diehl. But if the name sounds familiar, Dane Diehl has proposed some of that glyphosate legislation that would protect Roundup brand herbicides and other herbicides from certain pesticide lawsuits. But that's a completely separate issue. On this one, Dane comes forward and says there should be a standardized system in Missouri where each institution, if you're a public school district, a public school, and a public charter school. So in other words, if you get state money, we should come up with a rubric, a scoring system where everybody is given a score from 0 to 100, and then we slot in where A, B, C, D, F is. Brad, this probably sounds familiar to you as a product of the public school system. So we have an A through F letter grade. And then every year, every school and every school district gets an A through F. Dane says if we do this, we'll have greater transparency into overall where the districts ranked against each other. And for the greater good, if you're attempting to choose a school district, you don't have to look at a dozen different metrics to see where your kid might want to go or where you might want to send your kid, but you have a simple A through F letter system. As you could imagine, Brad, some folks in what you could consider the education establishment don't like this. Several committee members, and this is according to, by the way, the reporter is Noah Haberstroh from the Columbia Missourian. Several committee members aired grievances with the proposed system during a 2-hour public hearing. Former high school English teacher, Representative Kim Smith, it's spelled K-E-M, of Florissant. Brad, side note, she's a Hazelwood Central graduate just like you.
Wow.
She went there when it was already Hazelwood Central. She's not as old as to go to Hazelwood High School. She raised concerns over the system's similarity to Texas's A through F system and its potential to upset school districts that may be unsatisfied with their grade. Ranking minority member for the committee, Kathy Steinoff, she's from Columbia. She's a former teacher as well. She said the bill is overly harsh toward teachers and school staff. Steinoff's a former math teacher in Columbia Public Schools. Pardon me. Steinoff says, I think our schools are trying, and a lot of this feels very punitive. So on the punitive scale, if there's a little punitive or super punitive, Kathy says this feels very punitive. And she says the A through F grade system is just too simple. And one more legislator note before we discuss. Yesterday, we talked about State Representative Brad Banderman, pardon me again, from St. Clair. And we talked about how he was working diligently to address the toxic landfill issue. Well, he's in this story because he's a little bit skeptical about this too. He says, quote, there are some inherent weaknesses, natural weaknesses to a letter grade, to a letter grade, whether it's to a student or a school. He says it might be a little bit overly simplistic to just give an A through F. So I think Kehoe's point of floating this in the State of the State address was to get the conversation going and see if we can have another rubric by which we could judge public schools. That's my complete speculation of why Kehoe did this. What do you think, Brad?
John, first off, as an aside, I got a nice series of texts yesterday from Ben Brown about the toxic waste thing. Maybe we can talk about that in C Block if you want. But,
yeah, sure, of course.
But you mentioned something interesting because being a Hazelwood High School graduate, we did not have ABCDF.
Oh, you had ESMIF, didn't you?
Yes, we had ES.
I did too, Brad. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, and when you tell people, everybody else had ABCDF, and you tell people like, well, I got 3 E's, people go, what's that?
Yeah, and Brad, I believe, sorry to interrupt, but your kids probably, and you had, by the time your offspring were old enough to be in school, you had already abandoned North County and moved to St. Charles County, right?
No, when my youngest son was born, I still lived in Hazelwood.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because at some point, Hazelwood, I want to say it was sometime around the early 90s, abandoned the ESMIF scale and moved to ABCDF.
Yes, and E was excellent. S was superior. M was...
I think S was satisfactory.
Satisfactory. And what was M? What was M?
Mediocre.
Mediocre. I was inferior, and F was flunk. Fail, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. And even if you had an M, if you got an M in a subject, the teachers would stick a mediocre sign on your forehead.
Right.
And then if you couldn't spell mediocre, you were immediately demoted to an I for inferior.
I had one of my teachers, matter of fact, who tattooed that on my head to the point where I had to go to Hans Wyman to cover that up because I don't know if I told you or not, I lost my hair when I was in the 10th grade.
No, I didn't hear that, Brad.
Oh, yeah.
Thankfully, when you were a freshman in college, you ended up losing around 200 extra pounds. I mean, you were disgusting at that point. It's the kind of thing, pardon me, it's the kind of thing that makes you want to start, I don't know, fastfoodmediet.com.
Some people say I'm still disgusting. Ready for number 1, John?
Please give it to us, Brad.
The number 1.
Let me warm up my voice, Brad. Ta, ta, ti. Tita. I've been sitting here trying to brag myself. That's being glad myself. It's the acronym BAD myself. And when I say bad, don't mean the opposite of good. I'm talking about Eric Schmitt's neighborhood. That's the Bridgeton Air Defense Hood. Brad, that's the musical stylings of Kid Rock. His new album is called Carrollton Without a Cause. Have you heard of the Carrollton neighborhood, Brad?
I have. Matter of fact, I drive by it all the time right there in 270. Just off the if you drive on 270 between Mo Bottoms and the Rock Road, it's just off to the side there.
What a beautiful part of the St. Louis metro area. We're talking about Eric Schmitt, Bridgeton's favorite son. And what does he have to do with Kid Rock and Kid Rock's new album? I'm so glad you asked that, gentle listener. Kid Rock was the subject of a New York Post story. Why? Because he was in front of the United States Senate, including Bridgeton's favorite son, Eric Schmitt. Here's what Ryan King of the New York Post writes. The headline, cowboy hat wearing Kid Rock warns, quote, greedy snakes and scoundrels, end quote, are screwing fans with ticket scams. Donning a cowboy hat, singer Robert James Ritchie, known as Kid Rock, laced into the greedy snakes and scoundrels that dominate the ticketing industry and implored the Senate Commerce Subcommittee to target retail scams. I'll read one quote from Kid Rock, and then I'll explain what it has to do with Eric Schmitt. He says, the truth is, much of this could have been or still could be solved through technology. And when he says this, he's talking about his fans and other music fans having to pay an inordinate fee and a huge price for concert tickets. The truth is, much of this could have been or still could be solved through technology, especially proof of humanity tools. It hasn't happened yet because there's just too much money in the secondary ticket market. Ticketing companies didn't fail to stop this. It seems they chose not to. Now, our own Senator Eric Schmitt has teamed up with a Democrat, Ed Markey of Massachusetts. They passed the transparency. Now, Brad, pay attention. I'm going to ask you about the acronym. They cheered the passage of their transparency in charges for key event ticketing. What would that spell, Brad?
I think it spells ticket, doesn't it?
It spells ticket, Brad. Way to go. I give you an E for excellent. You can take that mediocre tattoo off your head. It passed out of the committee, which is a major step toward increasing transparency and consumer protections in ticket sales. You say, John, what would this whole thing do? It would ensure fair pricing in the ticketing marketplace by requiring upfront ticket disclosures, banning speculative ticket sales, clarifying refund policies, and strengthening enforcement against deceptive practices. So here we go, Brad. Not here we go again, but here we go. Something where you can unite a musician like Kid Rock, who says, I want my fans to be able to pay one simple price for a ticket and not get gouged, and legislators trying to do something about it.
You know, here we go again.
Here we go again.
All they have to do is this is so simple.
They need to sigh loudly while eating a Little Debbie.
No, it's the things like this sort of bother me. First off, hold on a minute, let me clear my voice again. In case the government hasn't figured this out, the Ticketmaster thing is just a huge monopoly because they own the concert venues, they own this, they own that, they own the ticketing system, they charge you for the stupid tickets and stuff like that. Okay, if they're upset about the fact that people have a secondary market and they're making money on it, isn't that sort of being butthurt? You know, and here's the other thing. One of the sales courses I took, they said you price your whatever you're selling, you price it to the point you hit price resistance. So in other words,
the pain point. Yeah.
So in other words, the idea being is if you're putting tickets on sale for $100 for whatever concert at Riverfront or Riverport, whatever the heck they call it nowadays, if you and instantly they sell out, you charge too little. But if you started charging $1,000 a ticket, then you would hit a point where, where the scammers, the scalpers would not buy at $1,000 a ticket, and the real dedicated fans would buy at $1,000 a ticket. And let's say they'd sell the place out 2/3. Then what you do is you'd say, hey, here's a coupon code. If you put, John Combest on your order, you save 20%, and the $1,000 tickets are only $800. See, that's the way it should be done. And then the scalping market would disappear.
I get what you're saying, Brad.
It would disappear.
Now, my natural resistance to this, I know we're up against break here, but my main resistance to this is selfish. I came into a bunch of tickets recently. There's a sweet old lady who's having a campaign seminar at Lindenwood this weekend. Have you heard about this?
John, I'm not.
I got a bunch of free tickets, Brad. They can't seem to give them away. And I want to be able to sell them on StubHub. But legislation from Schmitt and Markey would keep me from doing that. I wanted to see, I saw a social media post, and we won't say the name or the event or anything, because we don't want to, we don't want to disparage anyone. But I heard that a woman named Jane Evans, not Gene Evans, but somebody apparently named Jane Evans is speaking at this woman's conference this weekend. Now, I would go and see Gene Evans, who's the former chair of the Missouri Republican Party, a lobbyist, someone with a ton of experience in government lobbying campaigns. But I guess she's not going to be there because some old lady said that Jane Evans is going to come talk.
John, I'm looking at my security camera here in the studio, and
somebody's letting the air out of your tires, right,
they're
Brad?
slashing my tires right now.
Brad, to give
nice
you credit,
woman.
Though, what I think is amazing is there's a women's conference this weekend, and the organizer has been playing clips of her on a radio show, and she's been promoting it on social media. But amazingly, Brad, she doesn't cite the source of the radio interview. She just plays her audio clip. She doesn't even say, hey, this is from an interview that I did on this station, on this show. Could you imagine, Brad, being at a point in your life where you don't give credit?
John, I don't mean to upset you, but I'm actually getting residuals on that. Let me look at my PayPal account. I've already gotten $22,000 of residual payment for that radio show we did with her. So, I was going to share it with you, but I decided, nah, John makes too much fun of her.
And can you believe the audacity, Brad? But hey, to each their own.
Okay, John, once again, the John Top 3. We started actually early, and it's now 27 minutes after the hour.
I know. It's a shame that this is the least popular segment that we do every day, Brad.
You know what? Barry White did a song about the John Combest segment. Can't get enough of Barry White. Anyway, people are going to go, who's Barry White? As sometimes we call him the walrus of love. Okay, we have to take a break. We'll be back with the Brad Block.